So I've been doing some training planning today for little Wren. I have got a training assignment to do for my MSc and I was creating a formal plan. I've spent some time doing some foundational work before so that she has some of the skills that she'll need before I start doing the actual training. And we're about ready to start the actual training, so I created a plan for that today. And as part of doing that, I had a little look back at the plan and notes that I made when I did my training for my dissertation back in 2009/2010 when I was doing my last dog training degree. And what was really interesting, so I compared training methods with the 3 dogs that I had at the time. I had Cullen, was about 2 when I was doing this training, and I also had Kalgakis and Katie as well. And I just did the training with the 3 of them. It's not terribly scientifically valid, it's far too small a study group, but it was really interesting nevertheless. So what I did was I compared 3 different training methods. I had one where I just clicker trained, and one where I did some T-touch before I clicker trained, and I had one where I was using negative reinforcement, and what I was doing was the dogs wore a harness, and all of the behaviours were similar, and I taught them each in a different room of the house to try and differentiate them. And basically what they had to do was come and stand on a target in front of me. And I had 3 different types of target. I had a hula hoop that they put their front paws in. I had a chopping board that they put their front paws on. And I can't remember what the other target was. I think a doormat. So the targets were all quite different under their feet. And that was, and I used a different training method to teach each targeting behaviour. And so for the negative reinforcement, what I had planned to do was attach a lead to their harness, and the plan was that I would just pull them onto the target and then let go when they were on it. And the idea with that is not an uncommon way of training things. Some people use that sort of pressure and release a lot, but the idea is that the dogs learn that in order to avoid the unpleasant pressure that the lead puts on them, that they move forward. It's not uncommon. I was a little bit dubious about how effective it actually would be, and now it could be I found it wasn't effective at all, and that could be nothing to do with the training method. That could be because my dogs aren't used to being trained that way. It could be something to do with the way I was doing it. I didn't take video footage. It was like over 10 years ago and I wasn't taking as much video footage then. But nevertheless, what was interesting was I gave the dogs an out. Because I was doing it for college and because I had to take my project to the ethics board to get their approval for what I was doing, and because the lead pressure could be unpleasant for the dogs. I'll be honest, I didn't think it would be that unpleasant for my dogs. They wear harnesses routinely, and sometimes they do get to the end of the lead and it never seems to bother them if there's a pull on the lead. I wasn't anticipating this being in any way upsetting for them, but it could have been, so I gave the dogs an out. Oh, and the other reason I gave them an out was from a health and safety point of view. I lived on my own, still live on my own, but I was living on my own with 3 dogs, 2 of whom were very, very large garden breed dogs, and although I can't imagine there ever being a situation where Katie would have ever done anything to me. I think I could have pulled her legs off one by one and she wouldn't have bitten me. But the risk is there. The risk is there of getting bitten if you're doing things that are unpleasant to your dogs. So as part of the health and safety as well, I gave the dogs an out. And I gave it for all the training methods. They could end any of the training sessions at any point they wanted by leaving the room. And not only that, if there ever was a point where I had done 10 training sessions in a row and the dog had made no progress with my plan, then I just stopped the training for that method altogether and deemed it not successful. And so this is possibly why I got the results that I did. So what happened with the clicker training and the T-touch followed by clicker training, the dogs learned the task. It's pretty simple, and it would be, most dogs would learn it. And so they did. They all learned pretty easily. They were faster if I did T-touch first. But both methods were successful. The lead pulling method was not successful with any of the dogs, which surprised me, because at that time I was doing a lot of training with those dogs, and I considered that we had a really good positive relationship with training, that they enjoyed it, and I thought that they would put up with a little bit of discomfort. I thought the training relationship was strong enough that they would just take the challenge to figure out what I wanted them to do and run with it. And that, what happened couldn't be further away from that. Not one of them learned to do the behaviour by using the lead pulling method. And what every one of them eventually learned, that if they left the room, that was the training over for that evening. I always did the training at the same time of day. I did it in the evening, just before dinner. And I did train the dogs in the same order so that they had the same amount of frustration for waiting their turn each time. And so it was interesting to me that once they learned that if they left the room, that was the training session over, entirely over for that evening. I just stopped altogether, and once they learned that, that's what they did every time until we had 10 sessions with no forward progress, and then I stopped that training method altogether. That was how that particular method went for all three of them, which did interest me, because I thought it would be successful. I didn't think it would be as fast, but I thought we would get there, and we just didn't. And it kind of made me wonder if, with the dogs that are taught by using a kind of pressure and release thing, if they had a way to completely not have the pressure, other than to do what the person wanted, to release it, if they could leave the training altogether and put a stop to it that way, is that what they would choose to do? Now, I don't know. It's not a way it isn't a way I typically train, so I cannot comment on what the dogs would do who are trained in that way. They might well just learn quite happily and not. They maybe wouldn't even consider leaving the room if they had the option to. So they would maybe never learn that could stop the training. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to talk to you about it tonight. Just because it was an interesting thing, and I can't remember if I've talked to any of you about that dissertation training that I did all those years ago. It still really fascinates me, and I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on it if you have any. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.